The morning light spilled softly through the blinds of Nnenna's Victoria Island duplex as she leaned back in her office chair, phone pressed to her ear. "I just needed to hear your voice," she murmured, tucking a braid behind her ear. On the other end, CJ's deep chuckle rumbled. "You always know how to make my day better." "I miss you already," she said, voice warm with longing. "Dinner tonight?" "Of course. Just us," CJ replied, firm and affectionate. After a few more soft exchanges, Nnenna whispered, "All right. Love you." "Love you more," CJ said. She tapped to end the call, but her phone didn't go dark. Confused, she checked again, only to hear CJ's voice still going. But this time, it had lost all warmth. "She bought it again," he said, laughing. Then a woman's voice, familiar, sharp. "She's so desperate to be loved. It's pathetic." Nnenna froze. The laughter that followed sliced through her. That voice, that cruel laugh. Talani, her best friend, the woman who fixed her Jill on her wedding morning, her maid of honor, her sister in everything. "She still thinks I care about that silly journal," Talani snorted. "She writes like she's in a Nollywood fairytale." "And I play the charming husband," CJ added, voice smug. Nnenna didn't cry, didn't move. Her hand stayed clenched around the phone. The betrayal wasn't just loud, it was cold, intimate, casual. Outside, Lagos roared on. Inside, her world fell quiet. That evening, the duplex smelled of suya spice and takeout as CJ walked in, grinning. "Your favorite from Yellow Chili," he said, planting a kiss on Nnenna's forehead. She nodded, lips barely lifting. He moved through the house like a man unburdened, carefree, cruel. He spoke of traffic on Ozumbum-Badiwe, laughed about a client's poor taste in decor, then casually added, "Talani's heading to a lash this weekend for a spa break. You should go with her." The bile in Nnenna's throat rose. She gripped her wine glass, smiled faintly. "I'll think about it." Her voice was soft. Her heart was not. CJ didn't notice the shift. Or maybe he did, and chose not to care. Nnenna kept her words few, her tone gentle. But in her silence, something was growing. Not rage, not sorrow, clarity. She sat beside him on the couch as he scrolled through his phone, her body present, her soul folding inward. The man beside her wasn't a stranger, but he wasn't her husband either. Not anymore. That night, in bed, he reached for her. "You okay?" "Just tired," she whispered. It was the only truth she could afford. She lay facing the window, back to his warmth, if it could still be called that. No tears came, just stillness. When he drifted to sleep, Nnenna got up, pulled open her drawer, and brought out the old leather-bound journal Talani once gifted her. The irony stung. She didn't write poems tonight. She wrote facts, dates, conversations, names, laughter that wasn't hers. The betrayal wasn't loud, but her silence, it had begun to sharpen. Each line inked on the page wasn't just memory. It was strategy. By morning, Nnenna's journal had become more than a notebook. It was confession, record, and silent courtroom. She wrote not to heal, but to preserve, details that might one day be forgotten, erased, denied. CJ never noticed, or pretended not to. One evening, as she scribbled under the soft light of a bedside lamp, he teased, "Back to those emotional essays." She smiled faintly, closing the book with care. Something like that. But what she wrote wasn't poetry. It was evidence of whispers, of glances, of a woman who had listened too closely and trusted too deeply. Each entry sharpened her memory. Talani's offhand jokes, CJ's vague excuses, the weekend meetings, the lunches they both said were innocent. Now, she saw everything with new eyes. She wasn't crying anymore. The tears had dried into ink. Her silence was not sorrow. It was observation. She moved through the house like a shadow, present, but ghosted. A wife by title only. CJ kissed her forehead each morning. She offered a smile in return. He had built a lie. She was now mapping it. One afternoon, her phone buzzed. A message from Talani. A meme of a woman wide-eyed in bed, her man snoring beside her. "This is so you. Babe. LOL. You and your anxiety." Nnenna stared at the screen, stone-faced. The audacity made her stomach churn. She didn't respond. Instead, she walked to the mirror in their in-suit bathroom and stared at her reflection. Calm, composed, but behind her eyes, fire. "You think I don't know," she whispered to no one. "You think I'm soft." She splashed cold water on her face, breathing slowly. That night, she wrote in her journal, "I used to laugh with you, Talani. Now I wonder, were you always laughing at me?" Friday night arrived with wine, candles, and a light dress in comfort. CJ suggested, "Let's host dinner, just like old times." Nnenna smiled. Perfect idea. She knew who would be on the guest list. By 8 p.m., the dining table was dressed in cream linen and gold cutlery. Scented candles flickered beside a bowl of steaming jollof, grilled prawns, and fried plantain. The doorbell rang. Nnenna wiped her hands and opened it. Talani stood there, glowing in silk, arms stretched wide. "I've missed you, babe." Nnenna hugged her back, warm and firm. "Same here," she said, voice hunted, but edged in steel. Guests mingled, laughter bounced against the walls. Nnenna flowed through the room, refilling glasses, offering suya skewers, hosting with practiced grace. But her eyes never stopped moving. She saw it, the way CJ poured Talani's wine before she asked, the quick glances, the inside jokes, the way her hand brushed his shoulder, just briefly, but confidently. Then came the moment. A mutual friend teased, "You two are so in sync, CJ and Talani. It's almost scary." The room laughed. Nnenna didn't. She tilted her head, smiled lightly. "They've always had a rhythm," she said, pouring more wine into Talani's glass. The laughter stuttered. Talani's smile flickered. CJ looked away. It was subtle, but in that breath, the air shifted. The game changed. Not a scream, not a slap, just a look, steady, knowing, final. The night carried on. Plates emptied. Music played. But the friendship? It died in that silence. Nnenna stood in the kitchen later, hands in soapy water, staring out the window. She wasn't the naive wife anymore. She was a woman who knew. And she hadn't even raised her voice. Saturday morning came with a strange stillness. CJ had gone to the gym, or so he claimed. Nnenna moved through the house like a curator in a museum of her own life. She stopped at the shelf by the window and pulled out a dusty photo album. It cracked open with a whisper. Glossy smile stared back at her. CJ's birthday last year, Nnenna mid-laugh, knife in hand, cutting his cake. Talani beside her, leaning too close, fingers on CJ's back. Nnenna had thought it sweet. Now it looked staged. Flip. Talani at the beach, laughing in a gold necklace. The same necklace CJ once said he bought for a colleague's wife. Back then, she hadn't even flinched. Now, her stomach coiled. She closed her eyes, breathing slow, the way Ruth had once taught her as a girl during panic attacks. Count the breath, not the pain. Flip. More snapshots. Dinners. Outings. Talani always there. Always just near enough. Was I really that blind? Nnenna whispered. She set the album aside and reached for her journal, flipping to a fresh page. At the top, she wrote, "Lies I mistook for love." Then listed them. She just dropped by. "We were all hanging out. It's just friendship. Why are you overthinking?" She wrote until her fingers ached, then underlined the final sentence. They didn't even try to hide it, because they never thought I'd look. The pen paused. She wasn't writing to mourn anymore. She was gathering. Not for revenge, for her own reckoning. They had underestimated her. That was their mistake. Now, she was watching. And this time, she wouldn't look away. By Sunday morning, the walls of Nnenna's Victoria Island home pressed in like accusations. The scent of CJ's cologne clung to the curtains. Even silence felt loud. She needed to breathe. She scrolled through her contacts and hovered on a name she hadn't dialed in months, Ruth Eze. Her cousin, her childhood sister, the one person who never needed explanations. Nnenna called. "Are you home?" she asked softly. Ruth didn't hesitate. Always, "Come." An hour later, Nnenna stood at the weathered gate of a modest flat in Sorilay. The scent of hibiscus and steaming moi moi greeted her like memory. Ruth opened the door and wrapped her in the kind of hug that didn't demand answers. Inside, the flat was warm and alive, books stacked high, a pot of pepper soup bubbling in the kitchen, the faint sound of gospel music humming through old speakers. No marble countertops, no glass chandeliers. But here, peace. Ruth handed her a throw blanket and a steaming bowl. They sat in silence, the kind that only love can hold. That night, wearing one of Ruth's oversized anchor pajamas, Nnenna whispered into the quiet. I heard something I wasn't supposed to. It didn't just break my heart, it broke something deeper. Ruth didn't flinch. She reached out and rested her head gently on Nnenna's shoulder. You don't have to fight it alone, she said. For the first time in weeks, Nnenna slept without dreams. No pretense, no performance, just a slow rhythm of breath and safety. She wasn't healed, but she was held. And in that moment, that was enough. When Tolani's birthday brunch invitation arrived, complete with a glittering flyer and pink RSVP link, Nnenna didn't hesitate. She would attend, not to reconnect, to confirm. That morning, she chose her armor, a satin emerald green dress that flowed like water, her braids pinned up in a regal bun, lips painted a quiet rebellion. She walked into the Banana Island rooftop venue, heels clicking against marble, chin high. The air shifted. Tolani, swaying in blush lace, paused mid-laugh. You came. Nnenna smiled. Of course. You're worth celebrating. Every word, a dagger in a velvet sheath. CJ arrived 10 minutes later, grinning with a gold ribbon box. Had to fight half of Lagos for this, he said, placing it in Tolani's hands. She squealed, unwrapping a silk scarf she'd once admired. The scene played like theater, choreographed affection, perfectly timed laughs. Over dessert, Tolani leaned in and said, loud enough for the table, CJ's setting the bar too high for husbands, oh. Nnenna met her gaze. Calm. That's all right. Some bars are just illusions anyway. The laughter stuttered. Tolani's smile twitched. CJ looked down. Later that night, CJ claimed a client dinner and left smelling faintly of woodsy cologne. Nnenna waited 5 minutes, then walked straight to his wardrobe. Not searching, confirming. Beneath old folders, tucked between dusty magazines, she found the envelope, a lease agreement. Location, Ikeja. Co-resident, Tolani Bakare. Her hands didn't shake. She placed the document back exactly as it was and returned to her vanity. In her journal, she wrote, They built a home behind my back while I wandered the ruins of ours. But not for long. The next morning, Lagos stirred as usual. Horns, radios, and generators humming in the distance. Inside the duplex, all was still. CJ wouldn't return until night, according to his last lie. Nnenna stood before her full-length mirror. Crisp white blouse, navy slacks, braids swept into a clean bun. Her suitcase stood zipped beside her. She looked composed. And she was. Not broken. Prepared. She walked through each room one last time. She didn't touch the framed wedding photo. Didn't straighten the throw pillows. Let the house remain a museum of performance. On CJ's pillow, she placed her wedding band and a single folded letter. Chijioke, I won't list what you did. You already know. This isn't for you to understand me. It's for me to remember. I didn't imagine the love. I didn't imagine the betrayal. I lived it all. And now, I choose me. Asterisk. No anger. No drama. Just clarity. As her Uber pulled out of the estate, Nnenna didn't look back. That house had held her tears, but never her peace. Weeks later, she stood in a modest community hall in a Lupiju, draped in a soft mustard dress, natural curls pinned up. The room was filled with women, some broken, some healing, all listening. Nnenna shared her truth. Not the names, not the scandal, just the journey. Silence, she said gently, is not weakness. It's strategy. It's survival. Afterward, women hugged her, whispered, Me too. And as she stepped outside into the Lagos breeze, she smiled, not because she had forgotten, but because she had remembered who she was all along.